That was when he got shot.
Okay, I'm sorry. What did you say? The child got shot? The state would call Miss Hooks. Miss Hooks, what is your full name?
Bobby Lee Hooks.
Okay, and what is the name of the child before the court?
Gavin Lee Lewis.
And what's Gavin's date of birth?
6/20/2009.
Okay. And was there a previous order, and it was a divorce decree that was done back in February of 2023? Does that sound about right?
Court.
Your divorce decree.
That was done in 2014. Our divorce,
Actually, 13.
13.
Does that sound about right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Your Honor, the state would ask the court to take judicial notice of the court's file and specifically the prior order that was entered, I believe, February 21st, 2013.
The court will take judicial notice of its own file.
And Ms. Hooks, in that divorce decree, how was the possession of the child done? What was that agreed to?
7 days for Sean and 7 days for me.
So you were both doing like an equal possession?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And was Mr. Lewis ordered to pay some child support? And it was about $75 a week starting January 25th, 2013. Does that sound about right?
Yes, ma'am.
And Dad covered the health insurance through his employer. Is that correct?
Yes, and I also had Medicaid.
Okay. How do you guys do the possession and access of Gavin now?
I have him full time, and I've had him since about 4th grade.
Okay. So was 4th grade, does it sound about right? You haven't done like an equal possession since he was in 4th grade?
No, ma'am.
And what grade is Gavin in now?
8th.
8th grade. Okay. Does Dad still cover the health insurance through his employer,
Yes, ma'am.
to your knowledge? Okay. How often does Dad visit with Gavin?
When Gavin wants to go over.
Okay. And when he does visit, how long is that usually? Is that for a weekend? Is it for a week?
He may stay the night and he may stay the weekend, and it's not, but maybe a couple of times.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor. The state would call Mr. Lewis.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Lewis, what is your full name?
Sean Lewis.
Okay. And you recall that order that was done back in 2013?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when was the last time you visited with Gavin?
2 days ago.
Okay. And how long was that for?
He spent 6 nights at my house.
And when was the last visit prior to that?
Probably 4 days prior to that, he had stayed 2 nights. He pretty much kind of comes and goes. We live a half a mile from each other. So he might spend 2 nights with me and 3 with her, or he might spend 7 with me. And, he just kind of comes and goes as he chooses, really, being as we live so close. But am I kind of freely to speak?
Not yet, Mr. Lewis, but I'll give you
Okay.
a chance.
All right.
And where do you
I work for Bowman Contractors.
okay, how long you been there?
23 years.
And how much do you make?
I make like annual or just by the hour?
You get a salary or you get paid by the hour?
I get paid by the hour.
Okay, and what's your hourly rate?
49
an hour. And how many hours do you normally work a week?
Honestly, it just depends. If we're in a rush to finish a job, so anywhere from 30 to 60.
And what kind of work do you do?
I'm a supervisor for piling.
Do you happen to recall what you made in 2022? Was your W-2?
2022, I've made the same money for probably the last 5 years, I guess.
And
maybe a little bit less.
Okay. Do you have any other children other than Gavin?
Yes, ma'am. I have 5 other kids.
I'm sorry, you have how many?
I have 5 other kids.
Okay. Are those other children, are they your biological children?
Are they what? Yes.
And are any of those children under the age of 18?
Well, I have one that is 18, that's disabled, still in school. And I have Julie still in the house, she just turned 16.
Okay. And how is Gavin covered with health insurance?
Through Blue Cross Blue Shield, through the company.
Okay. And approximately how much does that cost a month?
It's took out weekly. I want to say it's around $150 a week, I believe.
Is that for health insurance and dental?
And vision, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and is that 150 a week, is that for just Gavin, or is that for
Just
you
us.
and the other children?
Yeah, it's just a family plan, I guess you'd say.
Okay, and when you say family plan, does that cover you and the children, or is there a
Yes.
spouse that just your own children?
I am married. I don't remember if she's on my insurance or not, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't
Alright.
think she is, but I don't want to tell you nothing wrong.
Okay, now, does your job require you to travel a lot?
Not a lot, but I do have to travel some.
Okay, and how often do you travel?
And it honestly, it just depends. Like the job I've been on now, I've been in town since last November. I've been home. The job before that, I was out of town for 3 months. I'd come home on the weekends, you know, or I'd come
Okay.
home on Fridays, spend 3 or 4 days at the house every other week.
Okay, and sorry, I forgot where my train of thought was going. And how many days a week do you usually work?
Honestly, it just depends, but normally 4,
4 days a week, and what are your hours normally?
10 hours a day.
10 hours a day. And what are the hours from when to when?
6:30 to 4:30.
When you say 6:30, is that 6:30 p.m., 6:30 a.m.?
6:30 a.m. to 4:30.
And you said the overtime just depends?
Well, yes, ma'am. It just depends on where we're at and if they're in a rush for the job or.
Okay. And just to backtrack a little bit,
Mhm.
how often would you visit with Gavin, or how often would Gavin visit with you during the school year?
Well, so last year he spent 10 months with me and he went and seen Bobby every other weekend for a couple of days. And I had him enrolled in Silsby School. I actually emailed proof to y'all at the Attorney General where I had him enrolled in school and where he was living with me. And that was when he got shot. He spent 10 months exactly. He went back to live with her back in December. She checked him out of school. And as far as him being in school since then, I have no clue. I've asked for information. I steadily get nothing.
I'm sorry, what did you say? The child got shot?
Yes, ma'am. He was visiting with her on her weekend that he wanted to go see her. She dropped him off at a friend's house. They was playing with a gun and he took a shot to the leg, squirrel shot to the leg. We spent 12 days in the hospital.
Oh, wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. But how often have you how often has Gavin visited with you since he returned back to mom in December during the school year?
So he probably stayed away from me, I'd say about a month before he started coming back around because he was mad at me. He was a 14-year-old kid. I mean, him and dad don't really get along, difference in opinions, but I'd say within the last 3 months, most of the time I pick him up in the evenings. He comes, spends a couple hours. I bring him back home, back to Bobby's if that's where he wants to go, or he might spend the night. He just pretty much comes and goes as he chooses, honestly.
Okay. And how long's that been going on? Last year, last couple of years?
That's been going on for years.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Your next witness.
And the state will call Ms. Swallow.
You've been sworn.
Ms. Swallow, what is your name?
Mary Swallow
And where do you currently work?
for the Office of Attorney General, Child Support Division.
And how long you been working there?
30 years.
Okay. And what are some of your duties as a child support officer?
I review cases and confirm income for parties.
Okay. Did you find any reported income as to Mr. Lewis on this case?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What do you show for let's kind of go back with the first quarter of this year? How much do you showing that any reported income?
I show $48,944.41 for the first quarter.
Okay. What about the fourth quarter of 2022?
I show $48,642.69.
And what about the third quarter of 2022?
$38,438.18.
And what about the second quarter of 2022?
$32,648.52.
Thank you, Ms. Swallow. No further questions, Your Honor.
Call your next witness.
No further witnesses, the state rests.
Ms. Swallow, so you had access to the last 12 months of Mr. Lewis's income from his
Yes,
employer?
sir. Yes, sir.
How much was it a month?
$14,056.15.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Mr. Lewis, you can hear me, yeah?
Yes, sir.
All right, so you working for Bomac now?
Yes, sir.
You were working for Bomac in 2013, yeah?
Yes, sir.
All right. You're making more money now than you were 10 years ago. Do you know how much money you were making in 2013?
I want to say it was around 36 an hour, I believe.
All
That
right.
$300 a week was I think the way I remember it, the child support was $600 a month. And the judge set it to 300 because I got him for half the month.
Okay. So he cut it in half for you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That makes sense. Ms. Hooks, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Hooks, I don't need to know the details, but was Mr. Lewis telling me the truth? Did the child go live with him for about 10 months last year because of an accident?
We stayed at the hospital for 19 days. And the only reason he stayed at his dad's is because we live in a camper and he couldn't get in and out with the wheelchair.
So the answer to the question is yes, is that your son lived with his daddy for 10 months while he was recuperating?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And then he and his daddy had a little falling out. And so for about a month, the child didn't go see his dad.
Well, his dad was working out of town and had been for months, and Gavin didn't have any supervision and he was getting in trouble in school.
Well, now, Mr. Lewis said that he was back at home full time again starting in November. So that would have been at least a month before the stop, but it might have been an overlap. All right. So Mr. Lewis did say, though, that after that short break, that he and the child have been seeing each other fairly regular, but y'all live really close. So the child just kind of comes and goes. Do you agree with that?
Gavin just started doing that this past month.
Okay.
Am I allowed to talk yet?
Not yet, Mr.
Okay.
Mr. Lewis. I'll get with you, though. All right.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Lewis, when you were working for Bomac back in 2013, did you have to travel then too?
Yes, sir.
No. I mean, your job hasn't changed any. You're just making more money.
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Hooks, is there anything else you think I need to know about this case before I make a ruling?
Well, the child that he said that was disabled is living with her mother.
Okay.
I mean,
He's still responsible for supporting that child. So, okay. Mr. Lewis, is there anything else you think I need to know about this case before I make a ruling?
Yes, sir. Maybe a couple things. I don't mind paying child support whatsoever.
I see that.
I've proved that. I've never missed a payment. I've been ahead.
I see that.
I've done my fair share. It states in the divorce papers that she's to fend for Gavin, and when she has him, and I'm to fend for him when I have him.
Right.
And she can say what she's want to. I've provided clothes for both houses since the time we've been divorced.
Okay.
Okay, his stepdad, Frank, yeah, he has done his part in buying Gavin clothes and stuff like that.
Good.
But I've done well more than my fair share because I'm the kid's daddy. I mean, he's
Okay.
my son, and I
Good.
will continue to do it.
Good.
I don't know. I just feel,
Mr. Lewis,
I don't.
Let me tell you something. You
Yes.
never have to defend yourself from being a good parent. That's something you don't ever have to do. And I'll tell you this, Mr. Lewis, despite what the differences are between you and Ms. Hooks, I haven't heard anything from anybody that you're not a good parent, Mr. Lewis. Kids get older. When they get older, they go through mood swings. When they go through mood swings, sometimes they want to visit, sometimes they don't. That's not necessarily your fault. Are you supposed to be punished for that, Mr. Lewis?
No, sir.
I don't think so either. But you are making more today than you were making 10 years ago.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, your child support needs to go up.
No, I agree.
No, I mean, it's really pretty simple. I mean,
Yes, sir.
the math is not that difficult. The court's going to find, the court has jurisdiction, the court's going to find that there has been a material and substantial change of circumstance. Mr. Lewis will continue to maintain the health insurance and the dental insurance on the child as he's been doing. His child support is going to be increased. I'm going to increase the child support to $735 per month. That's going to start on, when does it start in your CSRP?
Give me 1 second, Judge. Let me look.
I got it right here. June. When did you file it?
This was filed back in May, Your Honor.
Oh, back in May. Well, I'm going to start at July 1st. Court costs will remain the same in the deal.
Thank you.
Anything further from this issue in regards to the state?
Nothing else further, Your Honor.
All right. I did do a variance on this case based on the visitation schedule from the original order, if that's what you're thinking about, Miss Alexander. That's going to stay.
Okay.
I haven't heard enough evidence to lead me to believe that that's changed. So, and the state has the burden to prove to me by more evidence that I heard today that that's been changed from what it was.
Thank you,
All
Judge. I understand.
Mr. Lewis and Ms. Hooks, what's gonna happen now is the state's gonna send me a court order. As long as it matches what I said, you're damn gonna sign it, get it back to them. They're gonna make a copy of it, send it to each of you. Ms. Hooks, you got any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Lewis, you got any questions?
No, sir.
I wish you both.
I do got one question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You said you was gonna start at July the 1st. Well, we're
Right.
past July the 1st. Is that gonna mean
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
only-
be behind already a week?
Nah, they'll catch it up. It ain't gonna be that problem. It ain't gonna be that
Okay.
much.
Yes, sir.
They'll catch it up for you, Mr. Lewis. And if not, just watch at the end of the month and look at your statement. If it shows you're $100 behind, just send it in on your own.
Okay.
All right.
Ms. Porter is not in agreement to pay support to Mr. Reese Sewell and would actually like the child returned to her.
The CPS worker that we had was under investigation. This has been emotional for me. I deal with depression and anxiety now. I am the sole provider for my household. I just want to get this over with. I just want my kid back.